Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. It is the instant match reaction. Sheffield United 2, Everton 2 this afternoon. Nearly kick-off in the Premier League, and Sean Dyche's Everton side in their first point of the season in what was an incredibly cagey game of football. One that could have gone either way. One that I can't help but feel like if Everton were set up in a better manner, if Everton had more options off the bench, that we could have gone and won it. There was definitely periods in the game where both sides were under pressure and where both sides were looking shaky, but ultimately Everton have come away with a point away from home. And I suppose, given the circumstances, given the fact that we'd lost 3 games on the bounce, if you'd have said to me, earlier this morning going into this one, would you take a point? I would have probably said, yeah. As I said, there were moments in the game where Everton looked the better team, and moments in the game where you just felt if Everton had a little bit more control in the midfield, if Everton were a little bit, more clinical up front, we could have gone and put the game to bed quite comfortably and beaten Sheffield United. But there was also moments in the game for Sheffield United as well. Jordan Pickford has just made what quite possibly might be the best set of saves I've ever seen from a goalkeeper ever in my life. He's made a triple save at the end of the game there that will certainly win save of the season without a shadow of a doubt, and it's ultimately earned Everton a point in the game as well, and he deserved that. Obviously, the second goal for Sheffield United will go down as a Jordan Pickford own goal, but absolutely nothing he could have done about it. It bounces off the post, deflects off his head and goes in. But the set of saves at the end of the game there have just showed why he truly is one of the best goalkeepers on this planet. And I have this argument with people every single season. I have it with people every single week. Some people just seem to not believe that, but it's quite blatantly obvious, and you very clearly don't understand football if you still have doubts about how good of a goalkeeper Jordan Pickford is, because he's just showed that again in the 96th, 97th minute or whatever it was. I think it was the 98th minute of 6 minutes added on. The referee today was absolutely horrendous. Was it Madley? Absolutely disgraceful performance by him. He was dying for Sheffield United to win that game all afternoon. He was dying for them to score a winner at the end because there was no reason to add an extra 2 minutes on. We had a penalty that was not given. It was given as a free kick, despite the fact the foul took place in the box. And if you want to say to me, well, the foul actually started outside the box, the rules actually state that if a player is ragging a player back outside the box and continues to do so inside the box, and the player who's being ragged back falls inside the box, then it's a penalty because he's continued the foul. The actual rule that people will get confused about is that if a player rags a player outside the box and then stops ragging him and the player falls in the box, then that's not a foul because he stopped the foul before the player has moved into the penalty box. That wasn't the case with this one. The foul continued into the penalty box and the referee gave a free kick, which again, I have no doubt in my mind that isn't a mistake. They'll come out and they'll say, oh, it was a mistake, we didn't mean it, this, that and the other. It's bollocks. It was done purposely, and if it was for certain other teams, it would have been given a penalty. It's as simple as that. We've already seen, what VAR is about now. Referees protecting their mates, referees not wanting to make decisions because they don't want to come under pressure. It's all a load of farce. The true colours of VAR have been shown by Riley over the last couple of weeks or so, and I just think it's there to decide the outcome of games as opposed to make things fair. I'll be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, again, there is for me a slight air of disappointment coming out of this one, because again, very similarly to Wolves, very similarly to Fulham, it was a game against the side that realistically, Everton could have been going out and winning, and ultimately it was another winnable game that we haven't won. Now, okay, it was away from home, and given how cagey it was towards the end of the game, and at half time, I'm sure if you'd have said, would you take a draw, a lot of people would have said yeah. But Sheffield United aren't a very good team whatsoever. They're not. They work hard, they try hard, they battle their players. They've got a couple of good quality in there. Their new signing Cameron Archer up front is a real top forward, and if they do have any hope of staying in the Premier League this season, it will be based upon how he performs, because he is, he's a very good forward. But as I said before, there was periods in that match where Sheffield United just looked shook. They looked scared. They looked like the pressure was on them. The crowd was quiet. They looked they looked like they were there for the taking, and Everton just never took advantage of that. It was really mad. We went 1-0 up. We started the game relatively well. We had the majority of the possession. We were getting forward. We were creating chances. We go 1-0 up thanks to an Abdoulaye Doucouré goal. Corner comes in by Ashley Young. Onana heads it on. Doucouré's first chance is saved, and then he puts the second chance in. And you would almost think, right, okay, we've gone 1-0 up, we're away from home, we've not won a game this season. These haven't particularly had the greatest start of the season themselves and are looking a little bit panicky now. Go for the jugular, go and get a second, go and put this game to bed before, they've even got an opportunity to get a bit of confidence in it. But we didn't. We went 1-0 up and we almost sort of stopped trying. Players started to jog around, when balls were coming into the box, they weren't stopping the cross, they weren't throwing themselves into challenges, they were being lazy, they were being greedy on the ball. In midfield, we're just waltzing around. Defensively, we were absolutely everywhere, and I just don't understand it, and that message has to come from the manager. It really doesn't, and I know that there's a lot of people that don't want to criticise Sean Dyson, and I know that there's a lot of people that support Sean Dyson, are behind him, and don't think he can do wrong. But if Everton would have lost that today, which was very, very possible, by the way, we were losing at half-time, and as I said, the end of the game there, Jordan has pulled out a save that, probably less than 5% of goalkeepers in the world make to earn us a draw. If Everton would have lost that would have been 4 Premier League games on the spin we would have lost. Now, surely that would have warranted some pressure for the manager. And I know people will sit there and go, you just want the manager to be sacked. You just want the manager to be sacked. I don't. I want the best manager for Everton Football Club, and I want the best person in the job to keep us in the Premier League this season. And I think suggestions that there's no better out there than Sean Dyche just baffle me, because at the moment, the decisions that he's making and the way in which Everton are playing just simply isn't good enough. And today was another example of that. We weren't very good today. We've got a point, okay, and some would say, oh, confidence, and we're away from home, and the players aren't very confident, etc, etc. But the performance today wasn't anything special. Most decent sides would have gone there today and would have beaten Sheffield United quite comfortably. They would have put the game away at 1-0 up when we were cruising and when we were in control. We had chances when we were in control. Danjuma had a couple of opportunities where he's trying to take everybody on and shoot when he's got 3 or 4 Everton players stood with miles of space in front of them, in front of goal, and he's trying to do the difficult thing. I know he scored ultimately in the second half, of course, but there was a couple of moments in that first half where he was sloppy with the ball at his feet. As I said, the midfield were lazy. They weren't chasing. They weren't they weren't running around. They weren't getting into challenges. Tactically, I just think there was times in that game today where the players just didn't seem to look like they knew what they were doing. They just didn't seem to have a plan, because and again, I'm not a football manager, I'm not a Premier League manager, and I'm not saying I know more than Sean Dyche. And by the way, I'm not saying that Sean Dyche should be sacked or I want him to be sacked. I just think that it's baffling, the suggestion that you can't ask questions of him, because the decisions that he's making and the way in which Everton are performing at the moment needs to be questioned. It's as simple as that. But I just think that I just got the feeling that any team with a half-decent game plan there and a half-decent tactical setup would have won that game within the opening 30 minutes and would have killed that game off. And we didn't. We went 1-0 up. We took our foot off the gas. We started to waltz around. We were lackadaisical. We were lazy. And they get back into it. And, again, Amadou Onana allows the cross to come in. A lazy attempt to try and stop it. Just sort of throws a foot out. Flirts really with the winger, just sort of lifts his skirt up a little bit, throws a foot out and invites the winger to put the cross in, puts the cross in. I said this when the goal was conceded, and I'll say it on here, I tweeted it out. This is a genuine question, and I'm not even being facetious when I say this. Have Everton ever stopped the cross from coming in the box? Ever? Has there ever been one moment where a cross has tried to come in and Everton have just gone, nope, do you know what, we're not going to allow that, we'll block that cross? Because every single time an opposition seems to put a ball in the box, we seem to allow it to happen. It's good hold-up play by McBurney, I think it was, rolls it out to Cameron Archer, and his shot is put past Pickford. It's a good finish, to be fair, but all of a sudden we've gone from being not comfortable and in control on our own terms, but Sheffield United weren't doing much, they weren't offering much, they weren't putting us under much pressure. We were 1-0 up, and like I said, that's the moment where you've got to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, go and get a second. If Danjuma plays the ball across to one of the 3 Everton players in the box, maybe we get that second, we go 2-0 up and it's game over. But we don't. They equalise, and then they all of a sudden start to get the momentum, then their fans start to build, the crowd starts to liven up a little bit, and from that point to as I said, the end of the first half, I thought we were really, really, really poor. And again, people will say away game, confidence is low, blah 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 blah. We were playing a team there that will struggle to stay in the Premier League this season. And don't get me wrong, Everton will also struggle to stay in the Premier League this season, absolutely. But we were playing a team there that we were 1-0 up against that are struggling for confidence, and we had opportunities to put the game to bed, and we didn't. And we didn't even, it wasn't like we had 4 or 5 massive chances then at 1-0 up and we were just unlucky. We had a couple of chances, and for the rest of it, as I said, we were waltzing around, we were lazy, we didn't look particularly interested, and it's not good enough. They scored their equaliser, they have a period of time where they're on top, they're creating opportunities, Pickford makes a couple of good saves. As I've said before, we get up the other end, we have a penalty that, for me, it's absolutely baffling. Oh, sorry, that was the second half, wasn't it? But yeah, they get up the other end, they put pressure on us, and Everton just look like the team that are there to be beaten. Then we've gone from comfortably being 1-0 up and Sheffield United being very, very pessimistic to Sheffield United being the team on top and Everton all of a sudden are being penned back. And there's a thing at the moment of our forwards not being good enough, our attackers not being good enough, we don't score enough goals, we don't create enough chances, and that, by the way, is absolutely spot on. But that isn't the paramount issue with this football club. Defensively, we are a shambles, and our midfield, I'm sorry, but our midfield are just nowhere near as involved in games of football as they should be. Any of them, Garner, Onana or Decore, are just, there's no control. I can't remember the last time I watched an Everton game where our midfield controlled the game. And there's that age-old saying, isn't it? Games are won and lost in the midfield, etc., etc. And they are won and lost in the midfield. And like I said, I can't remember the last time Everton won a game of football and you went, you know what, our midfield were absolutely dominant there. The three of them just absolutely controlled it. The opposition team didn't have a sniff. Our midfielders just seem to run about with no game plan, no sort of no idea what they're supposed to be doing, just like headless chickens. Get the ball and then they might make a pass, or they might try and attempt a cross and it gets, you know, it gets defended, but there's no real cohesion, there's no real plan there, and ultimately that comes down to the manager as well. Sheffield United then do get a second goal again. Cameron Archer given, 3 miles of space on the edge of the box, bends his shot in, comes off the post, and it is unlucky, to be fair, you know, bounces off Jordan Pickford's head. He can't do anything about it, but all of a sudden Everton are going in at half-time, 2-1 down against a side that, let's be honest, aren't very good and haven't had a very good start to the season in a game that we were 1-0 up in. And, you know, for me, similarly to the game against Doncaster on Wednesday, that was a big half-time team talk for Sean Dyche. It was a big half-time team talk for Sean Dyche, because at the end of the day, like I said before, had Everton had lost that game, it would have been 4 straight defeats in the Premier League. And managers become under pressure for that, and he wouldn't just be coming under pressure for no reason, because we'd lost games, by the way. Like I said, again, I understand people love Sean Dyche, I understand people want him to stay, I understand some people want him sacked. I'm sort of at the point now where, like I said 3 weeks ago, if he was to leave I wouldn't be arsed, but I'm not really in this position of being like, sack him straight away. But the notion that he's done absolutely nothing wrong and he's not at fault for any of these performances or results is nonsense. It's truly nonsense, because he very clearly is doing things wrong. He very clearly is setting this team up in the wrong manner, because the midfield don't look like what, you know, they know what they're doing, or forward players don't seem to have any cohesion within themselves. But yeah, as I said, he had a big half-time team talk to make it half-time, and he did, to be fair. Everton come out in the second half and we were much better. One thing I do want to say is I thought Beto was absolutely phenomenal again today. I thought Beto was by far and wide the best player on the pitch in an Everton shirt, and you know, quite possibly the best player on the pitch altogether. I know Cameron Archer ended up winning man of the match, and you can't really go against that because of his goals, but Beto was phenomenal again, using his pace. He's so quick for what he is. I remember, you know, hearing a couple of people talking about him before we signed him, and there was a lot of concern about his pace. Is he going to be quick enough for the Premier League? Is he going to be fast enough to keep up with the play? He looks rapid. He knocks that ball past him, and he uses his pace, he uses his strength to push himself out. And even though he looks a little bit unorthodox on the ball and he doesn't necessarily look like he's comfortable all the time, he always comes out the other end with it. There was 2 or 3 moments where he just out-battled his defender. He knocked the ball round him, and he all of a sudden he had space to go. Another one where he knocked it down the line and he ran down the line and he put a good ball in the box. He was absolutely phenomenal today, and although he didn't score, he showed just how important he is going to be to this Everton team. And he will get goals naturally, of course he will. He had a couple of chances that, you know, were unlucky today. He had one where he curled it and it actually came off the defender's hand and went out for the corner, when again it should have been a penalty, but there you go. But he will definitely get goals in this team. But it's not just about scoring goals, it's about what he offers to the team elsewhere. And like I said, for me, I thought he was absolutely phenomenal today. His hold-up play, his strength, his pace, using his body, using his physical attributes on the ball. He was good, his passing, his movement. He obviously had an involvement in the second goal as well. Thought he was fantastic today, and like I said, a really, really strong couple of performances in an Everton shirt. We come out in the second half. Like I said before, we should have had a penalty. It's light as day, and again, we don't get these opportunities. We don't get these opportunities for one of two reasons. A, because the Premier League don't want us to get these opportunities. They don't want us to win penalties in those areas. Or B, because the officials just aren't good enough. And whichever way you feel, whichever way you believe is to be the truth, it won't change. Because if the Premier League don't want us to get penalties for those chances, then we're not going to get them. And the Premier League very clearly aren't going to change the standard of refereeing, because they don't even criticise these referees when they make a bad decision. Nothing was done about the Mike Riley situation last week with Anthony Taylor. Nothing. It was just swept under the carpet when it was a blatant admission of match fixing, and nothing was done about it. Nothing was done about it. So nothing will be done about this today, despite the fact it's a clear penalty and the rules state it's a penalty. But I thought we were better in the second half. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was cagey towards the last 10 or 15 minutes. I thought it was one of them where, like I said, you're sort of sitting there with your head in your hands thinking this could really go either way. But I thought generally, in terms of controlling the game, in terms of having more impact on the game, I thought we were much better. We seemed to be much more on the ball. Sheffield United looked very nervy in that second half. They looked like they were worried because they were ahead. We obviously get the equaliser. Nathan Patterson, after what was a terrible first half, puts a really good ball into the box, and Dan Juma gets on the end of it. And two players who had pretty poor first halves combined to get Everton back in the game in the second half. Good goal. We get back in, and you're sort of thinking, right, okay, don't do anything stupid now. Keep a hold of the ball. Don't do anything silly, and go and capitalise on them feeling the pressure, because they would have felt that pressure when that equaliser went in. They would have thought, oh no, we're going to get it in abundance now, and we should have been able to capitalise on that. And this is where the failings of the football club come into it. We sat here yesterday for pretty much 12 hours waiting for Everton to sign a player, waiting for Everton to sign a right winger, waiting for Everton to sign a central midfielder, waiting for Everton to bring in a replacement to Alex Iwobi, and nothing happened. And whilst people might say, well, we tried, or we did the best we could, or we just didn't have funds available, or this, that and the other, we had loan moves that we could have made, and we clearly had funds that were going to come in from Tom Cannon and from Alex Iwobi. There's no excuse for not signing somebody yesterday. But not just yesterday. Forget yesterday. I'm not asked about deadline day. I'm not asked about the fact that we didn't sign anybody on that specific day in itself. I'm asked about the fact that we didn't sign a winger when we knew we were desperately needing of one after Dan Juma coming in. We didn't sign a creative midfielder when we knew if we were to allow Alex Iwobi to leave, we would need one. The club started the month by saying we won't allow Damari Gray to leave until we sign a replacement. And then they allowed Alex Iwobi to leave without a replacement. So ultimately then, when you are 60 minutes into a game, you've just scored an equaliser, the pressure's on the opposition, you've got a bit of momentum, and you're looking thinking, right, okay, let's go and get a winner here. You look to your bench, 2 goalkeepers on it, an inexperienced kid who isn't ready, a couple of defenders on there. You've got nobody on there that can come and change a game. So the players that are on the pitch are shattered, and visibly shattered, and we need a fresh legs. We need someone to come on and give us that bit of extra something. Dobbin not on the bench today. No reason why. Don't know why. Could have maybe come on and made an impact. But that is the failings of those at the top of the football club, including Kevin Thelwell. Kevin Thelwell has failed in this transfer window. Simple as that. Because Everton have come away from it numbers-wise weaker than what we entered it. Now, okay, we've signed Beto, who could end up being a fantastic signing for Everton, and again was brilliant today. But we are in the same position as we were at the start of August. We get to 60, 70 minutes into a game. We need some fresh legs to come on and brighten it up and change it. We look to the bench and we've got nobody to do it. Sheffield United brought a couple of players on, changed the game for them. Wolves brought a couple of players on, won the game for them last week. Fulham brought a couple of players on, won the game for them a couple of weeks ago. We've got nobody to come off the bench. So I'm not arsed that we didn't sign somebody on deadline day specifically. I'm bothered that we've come out of this weaker than what we went into it. I would have loved to sit here yesterday and gone, Everton aren't going to do any business today. Why? Because we've already signed a creative midfielder, a striker, a right winger, a left back, a centre back, another winger. We're sound. We're already sorted. We don't need to do anything on deadline day. The reason there was so much anger and frustration yesterday isn't because it was deadline day and we didn't sign anybody. It was because we needed to bring players in and we failed to do so. Not just yesterday, but for pretty much the entire transfer window. And okay, as I say, we've brought Beto in and brought Danjuma in and we've strengthened in certain areas. But we still ultimately are at the point of 20 minutes to go in a game. We're needing some fresh legs to change it and we've got no options off the bench. That's where we are. And that, for me, failed us today. It failed us. And Kevin Thelwell has to take responsibility. The owner has to take responsibility. The chairman has to take responsibility. That's where Sean Dyche is escapes responsibility in that sense. He doesn't for everything else, but he does in that sense because it's not his fault that he looks to the bench and we've got no options there. It's the director of football's fault. What's Kevin Thelwell cooking? What's he cooking? Well, whatever he's cooking, it's fucking out of date. Because, once again, we've had nobody to come on and try and change that game and try and give us something to go out and win it. As I said, we were majorly in control for the most of the second half. We get the second goal, and then the last 10 minutes was cagey as anything. It was back to front, it was forward, it was backwards. We had a couple of half opportunities. Dwight McNeil come on, good to see him back, replacing James Garner. And then they obviously have that moment at the end of the game, which is just head in your hands, heart in your mouth. I still don't know how Jordan Pickford has managed to keep that out. I don't. Again, for me, he's just proven in that moment why he is so important to this Everton team. You know, people say, oh, Jordan didn't keep us up, Jordan didn't keep us up. If Everton stay up by a point this season, that could be the point that Everton have stayed up by, and Jordan Pickford has just made a triple save, quadruple save maybe, to get something out of that game for Everton. And he deserves so much commending for that. But yeah, like I said, for me, it is what it is. It's a point away from home. We take it. I suppose in the circumstances, it's not the worst result in the world, given, you know, how bad we've been recently. It was a game for me that was there for the taking, that we should have done better with, but ultimately we didn't. I thought Beto was outstanding. Thought Patterson was poor again. Thought James Garner was poor again. Thought Danjuma got his goal and was good, but again in the first half was a little bit greedy. But yeah, giving Dyche a lifeline, and now we go into the international break with the hope of coming away from it, and we need to start winning games of football because, you know, whilst the point is better than nothing, that was a winnable game that we haven't won again, and we can't keep having these games that are winnable that we're not winning. It's as simple as that. But big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. We'll be back with the player ratings shortly, so don't forget to check that out. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.